A millennial brags about working until 2 a.m. and surviving on vending machine coffee. In Gen Z, they quietly report toxic hustle culture to HR. Same job, same Zoom calls, but completely different worlds. In this video, we'll unpack the silent war between millennials and Gen Z at work, and reveal how understanding this clash could change your job, your team, and even your future. Millennials were raised on motivational posters and LinkedIn grind quotes. Success doesn't sleep, hustle beats talent. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Gen Z, they were raised on burnout memes, therapy TikToks, and Reddit threads titled, "My boss scheduled a Zoom at 7 a.m. Is this legal?" Millennials wear overwork like a badge. Gen Z calls it a red flag. One's writing emails at 11 p.m. and feels productive, while the other puts Slack on Do Not Disturb and feels alive. Now, imagine putting them on the same team. One wants a promotion, the other wants a mental health day, and both think that the other is insane. And just when you think the culture clash is about time, it becomes about space. Because even the question, where should we work, sets off alarms on both sides. Millennials built the open office and sold office perks like ping pong tables as employee rewards. For them, showing up equals loyalty. You couldn't just be online, you had to be physically visible. Gen Z entered careers during lockdowns and Zoom marathons. They assume office life is as outdated as MySpace. Today, office attendance is still 30% below pre-pandemic levels. Remote/hybrid is no longer a fad, it's a choice. Let's zoom out from the 9 to 5 fight. The real question is, why are you working at all? Because millennials and Gen Z have completely different answers. Millennials grew up hearing, get a degree, climb the ladder, secure your future. Their vision of purpose? Paycheck plus title plus maybe a ping pong table. Gen Z saw student debt crushing inflation and mass layoffs before hitting 2025. They ask, what's the point if none of it lasts? You want to know why this generational war feels so tense? It's really not about work, it's about fear. Millennials fear slipping backwards, and Gen Z fears wasting time on something fake. So, stick around. What comes next explains everything. And if you're still watching, you're not just scrolling. So, hit subscribe. You're exactly the kind of mind that this video was made for. And if you want to see how bad Gen Z really got screwed, check out our video. Links in the description. 86% of Gen Z say that purpose-driven work is key for job satisfaction. They'll even take less pay for meaningful jobs. But they're not naive. 68% would still take a shitty job if the paycheck was good, because, well, bills still need paying. Millennials say, at least I have dental and my kid might afford college. Gen Z answers, cool, I've seen companies collapse overnight, so I'll chase meaning, not promise. Millennials work to survive. Gen Z works so that it feels like life. And maybe that's why neither side really understands the other. And now that we know why they work, let's dive into how they communicate. Because one type sends memes and the other drafts memos. Millennials grew up emailing, carefully adding the boss in CC and crafting subject lines like mini headlines. Gen Z, they ping each other in Slack, drop gifs, and rely on emoji checks for confirmation. To millennials, thanks at the end of a long thread feels dismissive. A Microsoft blog noted that 61% of workers now prefer short messaging over long emails, signaling a shift toward fast chats over formal email. Structured emails scream professional, but for Gen Z, they're productivity killers. When someone writes a 5-paragraph email about a 10-second task, that's your cue to just update your LinkedIn. If there's one thing that both millennials and Gen Z agree on though, it's that meetings are broken. Gen Z avoids them like the plague. Millennials sit through them while silently screaming inside. Everyone wants fewer meetings, but no one knows how to say it without, well, another meeting. Welcome to the modern workplace, where the most productive thing you can do is close the tab. Staying in one job used to be a flex, but now it's a red flag. Millennials were told, stick around, prove yourself, and you'll be rewarded. Gen Z watched that play out and saw people get laid off with zero warning. Millennials say, you're too quick to leave. Gen Z says, you're too afraid to walk away. Here's the twist. Neither side is really wrong. They're just responding to two different kinds of fear. Millennials fear losing stability, Gen Z fears wasting time on a system that simply won't protect them. And companies, they still expect both to behave the same way. That's not loyalty, that's miscommunication. Millennials, they want to mentor. Gen Z doesn't want to be, quote, fixed. Gen Z brings in fresh ideas, millennials bring in experience, but neither wants to be talked down to. Millennials are tired of being told they sold out. Gen Z is tired of being called soft just because they have boundaries. Well, here's the thing. Most Gen Zers actually want mentorship, just not the condescending kind. A 2023 Harvard Business Review study found that multi-generational teams perform better, only if there's mutual respect. The problem isn't talent, it's translation. One says, "Here's how I did it." The other replies, "Cool, but we're not in 2012 anymore." Maybe the future of work isn't about choosing a side. Maybe it's learning how to listen without assuming that the other is clueless. Here's the truth. Millennials and Gen Z will never fully agree about work, because they weren't built for the same world. One learned to play the game, the other wants to rewrite the rules. And that clash, it's not a flaw, it's how progress begins. The goal isn't agreement, it's evolution. So, what do you think? Can these generations ever actually understand each other? Or are we all just stuck in one endless passive-aggressive Slack thread? Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.